Welcome to our council meeting on January 25th, 2023. I'd like to acknowledge the land on which we gather virtually today as the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements, and their contributions to our community. What I have learned from First Nations people that I have worked with is that our relationship to the land should be one of stewardship, not ownership, and I'm honored to make this journey with them. Colleagues, I would now entertain a motion to go into close on this day, so January 25th, 2023 at 6 p.m. In accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act for the purpose of considering the following subject matters. Oh, we're going to do roll call and then we're going to do this. So is Will going to do this or are you going to do it, Tim?
I think Will Short is going to do it, but I can do it. I will happily do it then. So Chair Redmond?
Present.
Councillor Craig?
Present.
Councillor Deutschman?
Present.
Councillor Erb? I can see Councillor Erb. Councillor Foxton?
Present.
Councillor Harris, we have regrets from. Councillor Hiniak?
Present.
Councillor James?
Present.
Councillor Liggett? Councillor McCabe?
Present.
Councillor Nowak?
Present.
Councillor Salonen?
Present.
Councillor Shantz?
Present.
Councillor Verbanovic?
Present.
Councillor Williams?
Present.
And Councillor Wolf?
Present. Thank you. Now I would entertain a motion to go into closed. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Nowak, seconded by Councillor Erb. We're just going to use hands right now. We'll use e-scribe when we're back and open. So could I see a show of hands? Is everybody in favor? And do we have two people on the phone?
Just Dorothy.
And Dorothy?
Yes, I raised, oh, sorry, I raised my hand. Sorry.
Okay, super.
There you go.
Great, thank you. So that is carried, colleagues, and we will now go into closed.
So just give us.
So give us 2 minutes. Don't go So colleagues, we're now going to reconvene in open session, and I would entertain a motion to that effect if I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Solomon, seconded by Councillor Wolf. Please use your e-scribe to vote.
All right. I'll just remind you that I don't have access to eScribe tonight, so I'll use it my Zoom.
Thank you, Councillor Schatz. Duly noted. And that is carried, colleagues. Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Okay, Councillor James, go ahead.
I had to declare a conflict under item 1 of the ANF committee to the appointments for GRAC as one of the members as an employee. I also had to declare a conflict under the community services related to the 34 Peel Street project as a family member is involved with that project.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Councillor Deutschman, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a conflict with respect to item 12.2.2 sub 1, which is the appointment to the Accessibility Advisory Committee. My firm has a long-standing significant sponsorship arrangement with the Brain Injury Association of Waterloo, Wellington.
Thank you very much. Any other declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, colleagues, the first presentation is the COVID-19 and respiratory season update. So I would welcome Dr. Wong, Medical Officer of Health, and Jesse Johal, Director of Infectious Disease, Chief Nursing Officer, to provide COVID-19 and respiratory season update. So welcome, Dr. Wong. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Redmond. Good evening, councillors. I will be providing a brief update about COVID-19 and highlights about the respiratory and gastrointestinal season to date. Jesse Johal, Acting Director of the COVID-19 response, will be providing a vaccine update. With respect to influenza, local influenza activity has been declining in the last several weeks. The peak of hospitalizations for influenza occurred in mid-December. Regarding RSV, or respiratory syncytial virus, since it is not a reportable disease, cases are not tracked. Hospital admissions, however, have remained stable since December. In addition to seasonal respiratory viruses, public health also monitors enteric virus activity, that is, viruses that cause gastrointestinal illness and outbreaks in congregate settings, such as daycares and congregate settings for seniors during the winter months. Public health has observed an expected increase of these gastrointestinal illnesses, as happens in every season, in a few childcare centers and congregate living settings. Our public health inspectors routinely inspect these facilities with respect to infection prevention and control practices and provides guidance to help prevent and control the spread of both enteric and respiratory infections. Finally, with respect to COVID-19, indicators of infection continue to fluctuate up and down. We currently have moderate levels of infection. There has been talk about new variants, such as the new XBB.1.5 variant, nicknamed Kraken by some, which is rising across Ontario and Canada. We should expect to see new variants emerge and additional waves of COVID-19. However, the impact may not be dissimilar to what we've seen in the last several months. That is, moderate waves up and down of COVID-19 infection. In the face of new variants, and a background level of vaccinations and previous infections, our recommendations remain the same. Stay up to date with the recommended vaccine and booster doses. And as COVID can linger in and spread through the air, wear a well-fitted mask, such as an N95, KN95, or a well-fitted medical mask in indoor public settings, and improve or maintain good indoor air ventilation. Thank you. I will now pass it over to Jessie.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Good evening, counselors. We continue to offer primary COVID-19 vaccine series for all those 6 months of age and over, and bivalent boosters to those who are eligible through fixed sites, clinics, and mobile clinics. We're offering a flu vaccine concurrently at these clinics. Thus far, 20% of the eligible residents have received the fall booster. It's a small increase from the 16.9% that I presented at the last council update. Our local rates of uptake of the booster vaccine are similar to the provincial rates. Appointments are still available through the provincial booking portal for regional clinic locations, and walk-ins are being accepted at all of our clinics as capacity allows. After a brief increase post-holiday break, we have seen a decrease in uptake of vaccine at our 2 fixed sites, as well as our regular mobile clinic sites. We have adjusted the resources to meet the current demand and to offer additional mobile vaccination clinics at different sites. Some of these things include the mobile clinics at post-secondary institutions this month, kids' ability to offer sensory sensitive clinics, a couple of daycares, Sanctuary Refugee Health Center, YW supportive housing sites, homebound clients, as well as some additional rural sites in Wilmot, Ayr, and Linwood. Given the shift in the demand, we are starting next week. We are partnering with school boards to offer the COVID vaccine for all grade 8 students and school students, along with school-based immunizations that were interrupted during the pandemic. Thank you. I'll pass back to you, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jessie, and thank you, Dr. Wong. And can I just tell you that it's so comforting to know that you're still doing this incredible work. And Jessie, I really love how you highlighted Sanctuary, the YW, and Kids' Ability as some of those really enduring, impactful partnerships that we've been able to develop over the pandemic. So it's great to know that we're still taking advantage of that kind of partnership. So thank you for reaching out to all of those groups in the community. I see no questions. So again, thank you very much for the update. Councillor Erb, are you clapping?
No, I have a question. I'm slow, sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Please go ahead, Councillor Erb.
I've got a sore arm from shoveling snow. I can't as people are reaching the maximum number of immunizations for COVID that they can have based on their age or whatever the group they're in, at some point the immunity wears off. Is there any indication that there's going to be another vaccine available for those people, or will they be able to get another booster on top of another booster as that time period lapses from the last time they got that their last shot, the last one they were eligible for?
Thank you for through the chair. Thank you for the question, Councillor Erb. It's a very timely one, because many people have gotten their fall or winter booster as recommended. In terms of what may be recommended for people in the coming months or year, That is currently being studied by expert immunization tables at both the national and provincial levels. And they have indicated that they will come out with their recommendations when they have them. At this point in time, the most recent recommendation is to get the fall and winter booster if you haven't already.
Councillor Erb, any further questions?
No, that's fine. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that that there may be some information forthcoming, because I have had that question asked of me from people who have had their fourth and fifth and wanting to know what's next.
Thank you. Councillor Deutsch, when I saw your hand up and then go down, do you have a comment or a question?
I was clapping.
Oh. Thank you. The claps are always appreciated. So I see no further.
Urbanovic.
Oh, Councillor Bogdanovich, please. I'm sorry. The screen goes down if I don't keep moving the mouse. So it went down. Go ahead.
Okay, so just so we all know, should we use the Zoom request tonight, or should we use the other one?
We should be using eScribe except for poor Councillor Schatz that can't get on.
Okay, no problems. Thanks. And I think Councillor Erb asked the question that I wanted, so I just want to make sure I understood the answer, because I've had some questions for people and I've referred them to their doctor. But if somebody has, done their first 3 but not 4 and 5 yet, should 4 still be the non-bivalent one, or should it be the bivalent one and then they go to the whatever will be next kind of thing?
Yeah, if they haven't gotten all the recommended boosters, what they should do is get a bivalent booster as long as it's been 3 months since their last booster or infection.
Okay.
So it's just get the bivalent booster.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience, colleagues. So again, Dr. Wong and Jesse, thank you very much. You are more than welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but if you can't, we totally understand. Thank you for not only keeping our community safe, but keeping council and certainly as the Board of Health, Public Health up to speed. So thank you for that. Colleagues, we have no petitions. The next agenda item is delegations. And now we're proceeding as they're listed on the agenda, and I would like to remind all delegations of some of the guidelines for participation. Please leave your video camera turned off and your microphone audio muted until you're on to speak. We also ask that you leave the meeting once your issue has been addressed, and you are then welcome to watch the remainder of the meeting being webcast on YouTube and the regional website. Today's delegation allocated 5 minutes to speak. And this is a standard parameter for all delegations. I certainly don't think any of our delegates tonight need to be reminded, but for the public, if you conduct yourself in any of the following manner, it will result in immediate removal from the meeting: interrupting councillors, staff, or other delegations, derogatory statements about councillors, staff, or others, turning your camera on at inappropriate times, and hate speech or defamatory comments. One last reminder for delegations: please do not take offense if following your presentation there are no questions from council. This is council's time to really listen and reflect upon the opinions and ideas shared with us from our community members. And our first delegation tonight is Andrew Bennett, Executive Director, Kitchener-Waterloo Symphony. So welcome, Andrew. You have 5 minutes.
In fact, I'm going to hand over straight away to our board chair, Rachel Smith-Spencer, who's accompanied by our principal double bass, Ian Whitman. Rachel, over to you.
Thank you. I believe we have a slide presentation, if that can be brought up. And
Rachel, somebody smarter than me is working on that right now.
Well, then I shall proceed so we don't run out of time. And if it comes up, we will go forward through it. Good evening. And thank you. If we could go to the next slide, please. First of all, I wanted to thank the members of Regional Council for the many years of support that the region has provided to the KWS. The orchestra has been well managed in recent years with very careful control of expenditures, and under the leadership of our music director, Andre Ferrer, it has reached new artistic heights. As audiences return to our concert halls, they are so moved to once again share the experience of great music produced by our extraordinary musicians. And I have to say that part of that experience has been seeing the joy on the faces of the orchestra members themselves as they once again perform before live audiences. If we could go to the next slide, please. During the pandemic, we prioritized continuing to serve our community through innovative online activities at a time of great stress for everyone, even though we knew that they would produce little revenue. In addition to providing concerts for our patrons, our other objective was to keep the orchestra whole so that we could resume work at in-person concerts as soon as possible. Building a sophisticated and flexible performing arts organization is hard, but undermining those qualities can be done all too quickly. And if we could go to the next slide, I'll now turn it over to Ian Whitman.
In addition to performing great concerts, having musicians permanently employed in the region brings multiple benefits. Personally, I'm fond of visiting local elementary schools to speak about the orchestra, my career as a musician, and the benefits of having such an organization in the community. For example, last year, my wife, KWS violinist Aline Choman, and I performed an outdoor concert at the Driftwood Park preschool near our house. Many of the children had never seen instruments such as ours and spoke about the event for days afterwards. They even made us a huge card. But it does mean that, like any permanent group of artists, most of the KWS's costs are in salaries, which do not vary according to how many concerts we give or number of patrons who attend them. Next slide, please. Like similar performing arts organizations across Canada and further afield, our audiences have varied a great deal in terms of their comfort level in returning to packed concert halls. Many are now attending as frequently as before, but a significant audience segment, especially our subscribers, are not ready to do so. It's such a great feeling for musicians in the audience when we perform in a full hall. This season, we have had some stunningly attended concerts, such as Murdoch Mysteries, KW Glee, and Yuletide. For many events at the Center in the Square, we invite members of the community to share the stage with us. The dancers of the Carousel Dance Company, the Grand Philharmonic Choir, and KW Glee, to name just a few. This is a beautiful opportunity for community members, especially young people, to experience the thrill and the self-esteem boost of performing. And despite the hall being full of proud relatives and friends for these concerts, overall sales numbers look set to fall short of pre-pandemic levels by about $500,000, which is about 10% of our annual revenue.
Thanks, Ian. Subscriptions for the upcoming 23-24 season will go on sale at the end of February, and we're committed to rebuilding the number of subscribers over the next 2 years. But until then, we are sadly missing out on part of a cash influx in the spring. We're so KWS is poised to take great advantage of a growing region, especially as our programming has diversified significantly in order to serve a diversifying population whilst maintaining the orchestra's work. Indeed, our new strategic plan envisages a 50% growth in the orchestra's reach over the next 5 years. But directly as a result of the pandemic, we're having to weather what is a temporary perfect storm in terms of cash flow and budget. Next slide, please.
We have gratefully received additional support since 2020, especially from our provincial and federal funders. Now, in order to build a bridge to what we know will be a bright future, we are reaching out to our municipalities, asking that they consider one-off supplementary grants or advance part of their 2023 grant to ease our current cash flow concerns. Our request to the region for a special one-time grant of $100,000 is a vital part of that plan. As we move to the final slide, we welcome any questions you might have.
So, Rachel, Andrew, and Ian, that was impressive. I'm going to ask for the slides to be taken down. That is your last slide, so I can see hands. Colleagues, there is a report coming that deals with this type of request on February the 7th, but are there any questions of clarification from colleagues to the delegation? Councillor Foxton, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And this has nothing to do with the regional grant, but I was approached today because there's a large $2.8 million grant that's being given out to groups such as yourself that were impacted by COVID. And Diana and Joan Fisk and Eric from the foundation and Joan from United Way, they're doing it duplicately. They have a very short time period. They have to have the applications in February and they're handed out by March. So I hope you'll take advantage of that, regardless of whether we give you the grant. The more you get, the better. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of it.
Councillor Foxton, through you, Chair, thank you for double checking. We are indeed aware and we are indeed applying to the Investing in People section of that grant.
And Councillor Foxton's question really was, did you know? And clearly you do. I see no more questions, so thank you very much for your delegation, and it's great to hear that you're pursuing every avenue for funding that's available. So thank you very much. And our delegation is Jacob Hanlon, Municipal Program Coordinator of Food Cycle Science. So welcome, Jacob. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm just sharing my screen over here. So, yeah, good evening, councillors, chair, and members of staff. Thanks very much for having me on this evening. My name is Jacob Hanlon, and I'm the Municipal Program Coordinator at Food Cycle Science. And I'm here to discuss a food waste diversion opportunity for your region, specifically in the multi-residential sector. So just to briefly speak about our company, Food Cycle Science is a Canadian company, and we're based out of Ottawa. And we're 100% focused on food waste diversion solutions. We do this using our innovative technology called the Food Cycler, and our in-home food recycler is sold direct to consumers through partners like Vitamix and Breville, to classrooms through partnerships with not-for-profit organizations, and then to municipalities through our Municipal Solutions division. So our municipal solutions help many small, rural, remote, and northern communities keep food waste out of landfills. We're currently working with 44 Canadian municipalities across 7 provinces and territories, including many communities in Ontario who often face struggles with food waste management or where green bins are either not the best option or not the complete solution for them. The issue of food waste is becoming more and more spoken about these days, so I'm not going to spend any time speaking about the issue, but I am going to focus on the solutions. We often get asked, haven't we solved this problem already? Between green bins, backyard composting, and landfilling organic waste, there are several options available, but each has their own challenges and their own barriers, especially when it comes to addressing food waste from multi-residential buildings. We're aware that you have a successful residential organic waste program in place, and we believe that our solution is a tool that can enhance your existing program and bridge that gap that exists between multi-residential spaces. And instead of residents hauling food waste to the garbage or the green bin every day or two, they can process their food waste in our machines, store the byproduct in a container, and then they can make the trip with it to the green bin every few weeks. So here at Food Cycler, we've proposed a different way to deal with our food waste, which really focuses on making food waste very easy to deal with and with a great user experience. Essentially, we built a small kitchen appliance about the size of a machine, where you put in your food waste, which can include meat, poultry, fish, and even some bones. And in a matter of hours, you have a soil amendment that comes out that's full of nutrients. What you've done is you've recycled it into a sterile state and reduced its volume by about 90%. So to briefly emphasize the simplicity and the versatility of our machines, they can be operated in 3 simple steps: adding in waste to the bucket, placing the bucket into the unit, and then pressing start. Most types of food waste can be processed in the machines, and as you'll see here, the Food Cycler can process on average 1 kilogram of food waste each cycle. Each cycle takes between 4 and 8 hours to complete and uses less than 1 kilowatt hour of power, so essentially a few cents per cycle. The result is about 100 grams of dry, sterile, and odorless soil amendment that you can add to your plants, to your garden, your lawn, or an existing organic system. And the machine can be used anywhere that has a plug and is indoors. And I'll just briefly talk about our options here. In addition to our FC30 unit, we also have the Maestro, which has a 5-liter capacity, while having the same countertop footprint as the FC30. It has double the capacity volume, as we believe that there's no one-size-fits-all solution for food waste. We also have a suite of 7 commercial units that range in capacity from 60 liters to 1,000 liters, which could allow for a multi-residential building, a food court, or a restaurant to process bulk food waste on a daily basis. So from an environmental standpoint, the food cycle is comparable to backyard and central composting, without taking into account any transportation emissions that would be associated with central composting. And the greenhouse gas impacts are reduced by about 95% when you compare it to sending waste to the landfill.
Jacob, you've got about 1 minute left.
Thank you. One thing we've learned from working with municipalities is that residents are very interested in being part of the solution, and they want to try new things, and they want their governments to bring these solutions to their community. So with the food cycle, you get to bring something innovative and tangible to your residents. And on top of the social pressure is the impact of the regulations that are coming to us here in Ontario regarding organics diversion from multi-residential buildings. I'll just briefly mention that we have completed programs in over 40 municipalities in Canada and over 4,700 households with overwhelmingly positive results. And I'll just skip ahead here just to briefly finish off with Food Cycle Science is a finalist in the Food Waste Reduction Challenge, where we received federal funding in the amount of $400,000 to go towards these programs. So any of these pilot programs that we get with our municipalities, we implement this money into the programs. So I'll just skip ahead here, and I would just like to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I know I rushed through a little bit, so I'm happy to answer any questions at this time. And we just kindly ask that you receive our presentation as information. And if there should be any interest in partnering with us on a funded pilot program, that you refer to staff for a recommendation and report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Great timing.
Thank you, Chair. I was squeezing it in.
Well done. Councillor James, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Jacob, for your presentation. Very insightful. I think I've seen these online. I'm just wondering, how are they distributed to families when you partner with municipalities? What does that process look like? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So one thing we take pride in is being able to be very adaptable to make sure our programs work best with the municipality based on their needs. So we've had many municipalities that have essentially a pickup day where they kind of plan it as an event and there's a bit of hype built around it. And let's say they went with a 100-unit program, they have all their pre-registrations finished, and on a certain day, members of the municipality, as well as sometimes members of Food Cycle Science as well, were there on site, and participants and residents can come and pick up their food cycler, answer any questions or ask any questions they may have. We're there to do kind of demos and things like that. So that's one way to do it. We also offer the option where residents can have their unit directly shipped to them within the municipal programs. That's at a subsidized rate that's allows them to get it for cheaper than if they were to just get one online and ship it to their home. So we really take pride in being able to adapt this program for a best fit with each municipality.
Any further questions, Councillor James?
So just a question around cost. So if you partner with the municipality, there is no cost to the resident who is taking it. Is there something that they would have to contribute to?
Yes, thanks for the question. Thanks for the question, Councillor. In a longer presentation, I would have gone a bit more through the pricing structure, but essentially what we do is we reduce for the FC30 unit I'll use for this example. It's a $500 machine on the Vitamix website and online. We reduce that down within these municipal programs by $200 to $300, and then using the federal money from Impact Canada, the funding we received through this program, we can reduce it by another $50. So the price point is now at $250, and the municipality also provides a subsidy so that we all have some skin in the game in terms of the resident will then have the price point of, typically it's $150. We have the municipality put in $100. So then for the $500 machine, the residents get it for $150. And this just allows it to be very accessible within these municipal programs. A lot of people who want to divert their food waste don't necessarily have the access to it at the kind of the retail price point.
All right, thank you. That's all I had. Thank you again, Jacob.
Thank you.
Councillor Huniak, go ahead, please.
Through you, Chair, my question was answered. It was regarding cost to the individual family.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Erb, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Redmond. Thanks for the presentation. Good to see this innovation. We know what the reduction of these wastes have how they've been beneficial to saving our landfill site, and the more that that's being developed, all the better. I'm wondering, have you had any formal conversations or informal conversations with our staff?
I don't believe we have yet. I believe that this is our, other than being involved in this delegation, I did speak with a staff member in Kitchener, and they recommended that I perform a delegation with the region. So apart from that, this is our first point of contact. I believe I've been with the company for under a year now, so it's possible there may have been some contact back, and as well as at trade shows such as the Ontario Municipal conferences and such. We usually have a booth there, so it's possible that we could have made contact back then.
Yeah, I think I would encourage you to get in touch with our staff and see if there's been some kind of a conversations going on between the two. Thank you.
So thanks, Councillor Erb. So I'm wondering if that's something that staff can take under advisement to maybe explore exactly what this might look like. Councillor McCabe?
Thank you. That was my question, the same as Councillor Erb, if Jacob had been, or someone from his company had been in touch with staff to explore this more. Thank you for the presentation, Jacob. Interesting.
Thank you, Councillor. We typically try to have our kind of first point of contact, if it's not at one of the Ontario or Canadian conferences, to be through a delegation, just to spread awareness, to show what this solution entails, and then from there we like to work with the staff members and get either a proposal or a program structure in front of council.
So I'm not sure if all the commissioners are on, but Mr. Lochner, I know you're on. So is this something that we could leave in your capable hands to follow up? Oh, I see Jennifer's here. Jennifer, do you want to comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair Redmond. Certainly we're interested in helping residents divert as much waste from landfill as possible, especially in organics and food waste, as that's the next big thing looming on the horizon after Blue Box. So, and there is a policy statement from the Ontario government with respect to organics, and then the focus really is on multi-res buildings, and that is something that we as staff would want to support our residents with. So happy to talk to Mr. Hanlon when he has a chance, and we can see what can come from this conversation.
Absolutely, thank you. We will we'll definitely be in touch and take this conversation further. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I see no other speakers, so thank you for your delegation to both delegations. And the next agenda item is to approve the minutes of the previous minutes as listed. And I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Craig. I'm going to ask you to use eScribe to vote, but just for those watching, it is Strategic Planning and Budget, December 14th, the Board of Health, December 14th, closed council on December the 14th, and council on December the 14th, Community Health and Health Services Committee, which was January the 10th, Planning and Works Committee, January the 10th, closed committee, January the 10th, and Administrative and Finance on January the 10th. And colleagues, that is carried. Thank you very much. The next agenda item is Communications Information Package, January 17th, and that has been distributed to you electronically, colleagues. And the information package was distributed earlier. So unless anyone has anything to bring forward, the next item is correspondence to Councillor Craig. And we received a letter that was sent to Councillor Craig from Cambridge Area MPP Brian Riddell respecting Bill 23, And he has asked that we receive that for information, so that too is part of your correspondence. Councillor Craig.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased that I at least got a letter back from Mr. Riddell. Unfortunately, I didn't get an answer to the main question. The main question really being, why is Toronto getting $200 million to help with their deficit? And having gone through the same experiences that have caused deficits here in the region of Waterloo. And there really is no answer coming back to that. I think also, if we look at the letter, it talks about enabling infrastructure as a result of Bill 23. That will, as long as we exceed our housing pledge levels and growth targets, we will be compensated. So we got to look at this in, I think, a way in terms of just what we can do to proceed with regards to the deficit problems we have. I think the MPPs have to be kept in the loop of how we are concerned and how we see other things happening in the province of Ontario. And I'm a little bit disappointed in the response, but overall, at least Mr. Riddell did respond, and I should be thankful for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Craig. I think I can speak on behalf of all four township mayors. We were all at ROMA, which is the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and we take heart in that the government is saying that they will keep municipalities whole, but nobody has had a definition of exactly what that means. So maybe one of the things that we can follow up with offline is meeting with our MPPs locally and discussing this with them. So I'll use that as a takeaway, unless somebody has another point of view. I still have Councillor Deutschman. Councillor Deutschman, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow up on those comments, and I want to thank Councillor Craig for his initial letter. Concerned initially, but to get this response, I think this response is very informative and raises a very concerning issue that we need to note here. What MPP Riddell is telling us is that there'll be no funding shortfall in the second paragraph, provided municipalities achieve and exceed their housing pledge levels and growth targets. So that's a condition upon which we are to be made whole. And when you talk to anybody in the industry these days, I think there's going to be a problem achieving and exceeding housing pledge levels and growth targets. So this is very concerning. That's a caveat. That's a condition on being made whole. And I think that that is very enlightening and not information that we've had previously. So that's very concerning. And I think that needs to be followed up on and clarified, because this MPP is providing us with this information. And no doubt this message is provided from housing. And I think that is something that we have to be very concerned about, because already there are many people that are skeptical about the housing targets that have been established. And if that's the way we're to be made whole, we have a real problem with respect to this. And I think that this is very informative. And I think this is something that should be set on the side of the table and everyone kept there whenever you're speaking with an MPP to talk about this. This is not an attack on the provincial government. This is just seeking clarification on how we're to be made whole and what are the preconditions, along with the whole issue of the audit. I mean, we are hearing from local MPPs that they have a concern about what we're doing with respect to DC reserves and other things like that, as if we're perhaps mismanaging or we're not accounting for them appropriately. And I think that also reflects a misunderstanding on the provincial government's part about the work we're doing and how well we're accounting for the dollars that we're collecting and how much time and care goes into developing a DC plan in our community. So this letter is very informative. It opens up a lot of information and a lot of concerning information. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I see no further speakers, so I'm going to entertain a motion to go into the Committee of the Whole to consider reports. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Solomon, seconded by Councillor Nowak. Please use your e-scribe to vote. Colleagues, that is carried. Thank you very much. The first report that we're going to consider as Committee of the Whole is a finance report, and the report is the extension of the agreement of the City of Waterloo use of the Waterloo parking structure, and I will look to Mr. Schelling, Regional Solicitor, if there are any questions. So we have the report in front of us. If Jeff, do you want to make any comments, or are you just here to answer the hard questions?
I'm just here as a resource if council has any questions about the report.
So Councillor Deutschman, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I thought it'd just be appropriate if Mr. Schelling could just make a few comments about this before we vote on it, just to provide a little background information for those that are watching.
Sure, I'm happy to. Councillor Deutschman, through you, Chair Redmond. So this report is with respect to the City of Waterloo owned parkade at 10 Willis Way. It was constructed back in the early 90s. Both the region and the City of Waterloo collaborated on the cost of the structure. At the time, the region was constructing an admin facility down the road on Regina for administrative purposes. And it made sense for the two municipalities to collaborate on the structure. When the structure was built, there was an option to purchase that was incorporated into the contractual documentation at the time. Roughly speaking, the city uses, for the purpose of public parking, 30% of the spaces in the parkade, and the region uses the remainder for regional employees that work at the regional facility nearby. At this point in time, 30 years into the agreement, there's a need for ongoing capital improvements and maintenance. It makes sense to consider the interests of the parties, and the city staff and region staff have been working on how the option would be exercised so that the region would essentially realize its ownership share in the structure, and the parties would agree on an appropriate formula for continued maintenance costs and use of the facility. The timeline for the finalization of the option is it's been extended a number of times. It's currently January 31st. So both City of Waterloo Council and Region currently tonight with this report are being asked to extend the time for the exercise of the option to June 30th of this year, to allow city staff and regional staff to finalize the agreement and come to terms on what will be essentially the new cost share and ownership structure for the contractual structure for the parkade. So what we're seeking tonight is essentially an extension of the current option agreement and authority for entry into the final contractual arrangement between the city and the region, assuming the City of Waterloo similarly extends the option to mid or end of June of this year.
Councillor Deutschman, any further questions?
No, thank you very much for that, Mr. Schilling.
Okay, so colleagues, I'd like a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Huniak, seconded by Councillor Wolf. So the Councillor Huniak, do you have a question, or you were moving it?
Sorry, Chair, I was moving it.
Perfect. Okay, so what we are going to vote on, colleagues, and I'm asking you to use your e-scribe, except for Councillor Shantz, who didn't get in, that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo take the following actions as outlined in the report dated January the 25th, 2023, to enter into an amending agreement with the Corporation of the City of Waterloo to further extend an existing option to purchase a share of parking structure owned by the City of Waterloo and used by the Region of Waterloo to June 30th, 2023, and that the Commissioner, Corporate Corporate Services and Regional Solicitor be authorized to approve and execute the final option agreement to exercise the existing option to purchase a share of a parking structure owned by the City of Waterloo and used by the Region of Waterloo prior to June 30th, 2023. So it's been moved and seconded. Please use your icons. That is carried, colleagues. The next agenda item is committee reports, and the first one up is Administration and Finance Committee Summary, January the 10th, 2023. And there's a summary of recommendations. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Shaw, seconded by Councillor Craig. The summary of recommendations of the Administrative Finance Committee dated January 10th, 2023, item 1 and 2 be adopted as follows: that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo authorize the Regional Chair and Clerk to enter into a transfer payment agreement with the Province of Ontario with respect to the Safe Restart Agreement Transit Stream Phase 4 to the satisfaction of the Regional Solicitor and the Chief Financial Officer as described in Report COR-CFN-23-003 dated January the 10th, 2023, and that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo write off accounts receivable in the amounts of $169,000, right? $481.50 for the year ended December 31st, 2022, as outlined in Report COR-TRY-23-002 dated January 10th, 2023. So if you, so that is carried, colleagues. The next agenda item is the closed Administration and Finance Committee Summary, January 10th. And this outlines the administrative and finance recommendation that the regional municipality appoint following applicants to the Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee, known as GRAC, for a 4-year term ending on December 31st, 2026. And all of these people are new appointees, and they are Alyssa Cleland, Tamara Cooper, Sarah Cunningworth, Heather Gillespie, Christine Nishiwaki, Farshid Sadat Sharifi, Catherine Wybrandt, and an agency representative who will be selected by the Brain Injury Association of Waterloo, Wellington. So if I could have a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Sullivan, seconded by Councillor Foxton. Please use your e-scribe to vote. That is carried, colleagues. The next agenda item is the closed Community and Health Services Committee Summary. And it recommends that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo take the following actions in respect to Love Your Neighbor Communities Affordable Housing Proposal for the Regional Land Contribution of 34 Peel Street, New Hamburg, to support a proposed affordable housing development in the Township of Wilmot, described in the report CSD-HOU-23-001, dated January 10th. And there are some subparts to that. A, the Regional Council continue to support the proposed use of property 34 Peel Street, New Hamburg, for the development of affordable housing by Love Your Neighborhood Communities, also known as LINK, a nonprofit organization subject to any requirements of Wilmot Township planning and building officials, and B, authorize the Commissioner of Community Services to issue a conditional commitment letter to transfer the property to LINK valid for 18 months regarding conveyance of the property in the form satisfactory to the regional solicitor. The next agenda item is that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo take the following actions in respect to Rapid Housing Initiative Round 3 to facilitate the creation of new affordable housing for vulnerable people under the Rapid Housing Initiative Round 3 as outlined in Report CSD-HOU-23-002 dated January 10th, 2023. There are 5 subsections. A, authorize the Commissioner of Community Services to enter into an agreement with Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation under the Rapid Housing Initiative Round 3 in a form and content satisfactory to the regional solicitor. B, authorize the Chief Administrative Officer and Commissioner of Community Services to select a project or projects for Rapid Housing Initiative Round 3 City Stream funding and apply for project stream funding based on the program guidelines and regional priorities identified in this report. C, to authorize the Commissioner of Community Services to submit the proposed projects under Rapid Housing Initiative Round 3 to CMHC for approval for city stream projects and consider project stream projects. Authorize the Commissioner of Community Services to execute such agreements and documentations necessary with the Government of Canada and all approved project proponents as required as part of Rapid Housing Initiative Round 3, being subject to the satisfaction of the regional solicitor. And E, authorize the Director and Assistant Director Housing Services to execute and deliver all documentation required by CMHC and the region to fund the Rapid Housing Initiative Round 3 City Stream and Project Stream projects approved by CMHC and finalize the funding and the conditions of the proponents. Councillor Bravanovich.
Thanks very much, Chair Redmond, and just want to briefly speak to this and say how exciting it is that we're seeing this funding come through our federal partners in terms of the Rapid Housing Initiative. This, as you know, is a program that has been advocated for some time through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I know when we have our big city mayors caucus meetings, it's something that we've talked to Minister Hussein and others about. I know you've done a fair bit of advocacy around this, as have others around the council horseshoe, and speaking both with local MPs and others. And I raise it because it has been a particularly successful form of funding in terms of getting supportive housing built quickly. It's one where, for example, I know our own municipality has partnered with the region and the federal government in phase 1 or RHI 1 with respect to the YW project. And lastly, I just want to say how this is the kind of program that municipalities like us are really looking to the federal government to continue as they look at budget 2023-2024 in terms of additional funding. And I know part of the ask that has gone into the government is to actually make this the RHI money permanent until we actually see an end to functional homelessness across Canada. But this program that directly sees the dollars come to municipalities has been most effective, and hopefully we can see that continue to be part of the upcoming federal budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Solomon, I saw your hand up. Did you change your mind?
No, I was just zealous and wanted to move the motion onto the floor.
Perfect. It's been moved by Councillor Solomon. Councillor Huniak, I saw your hand up. Did you want to speak to it and second it?
Just seconding.
Okay.
All good.
This is all good news, and it's a great project. So colleagues, I would ask you to use your e-scribe to vote. That is carried, colleagues, and again, that is great news. Next agenda item is the closed Planning and Works Committee summary of January the 10th, 2023. The summary recommendations are from the closed Planning and Works Committee meeting on the 10th. Item 1 was the regional municipality enter into agreement of purchase and sale with His Majesty the King of Ontario be presented to the Minister of Infrastructure for part of the property described as Part 41 German Tract in the regional municipality of Waterloo, designated Parts 1, 2, and 3 on Plan 58R-21533 at the purchase price of $394,500, applicable taxes and terms and conditions satisfactory to the regional solicitor as outlined in report PDL-LEG-23-002 dated January the 10th, 2023, and that the regional municipality of Waterloo enter into an agreement of purchase and sale with His Majesty the King in right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure for part of the property described as Part Lot 41 German Tract in the regional municipality of Waterloo, designated Parts 8, 10, and 12 on Plan 58R-21533 being part of PIN 22184-0508 at the purchase price of $84,750 plus applicable taxes and terms and conditions satisfactory to the regional conditioner and regional solicitor as outlined in report PDL-LEG-23-002 dated January 10th, 2023. And that the Commissioner, Engineering and Environment Services and Regional Solicitor be authorized to execute these agreements of purchase and sale and all other related documentation to complete the 2 acquisitions of land as outlined in the aforementioned report. So if I could have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Hunick. Are you moving it or did you want to make comment?
Sorry, I think my hand was still raised from last time. I can move it if that's helpful.
Sounds good. Councillor Wolf, would you like to second it? Thank you very much. Please use your e-scribe to vote. That is carried, colleagues. Other matters under Committee of the Whole. I would entertain a motion for the Committee of Whole to rise and Council to resume. I would need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Schantz, seconded by Councillor Foxton. Please use your e-scribe to vote.
I don't have it.
So that is carried, colleagues. We are now in council. I need a motion to adopt the proceedings of the Committee of the Whole, which we have just dealt with. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Bravanovich, seconded by Councillor Erb. Please use your e-scribe to vote. So that is carried, colleagues. I have no motions. Any notices of motion? Seeing none, unfinished business. Other business. Questions? Councilor Bravanovich, do you have questions?
Yes, thanks. Thanks very much, Chair Redmond. I'm just wondering if I can ask Mr. Sweeney for an update pertaining to the how things are coming along with respect to the managed encampment. I know we were planning on having that up and running in February, and I'm just wondering how things are going, because obviously it's important in terms of both the 2 regional sites in Kitchener and Cambridge, as well as the site in Victoria Park, and the broader issue of encampments around the region as we look at getting folks into more appropriate housing.
Thank you, Councilor Bravanovich. Peter.
Certainly, and through you, Chair. Through you, Chair. At our committee meeting next week, we have on the agenda a verbal update on the interim housing solution, which has been a standing verbal update since August, since we launched this work, given the fast-moving targets. However, there is a community meeting that we are holding tomorrow for those adjacent neighborhoods and businesses to the site on Herbs Road. And I suspect I will be also getting a question, Councillor, that you just posed as well. So I want to just let Council know that this project, in terms of getting it moved from about 8 weeks ago, is when we finalized, the contract and the approvals in place from not only Council but with the vendor, and about 6 weeks since we announced that the Working Centre will be our operational partners. This has been a priority piece of work for both regional staff in housing and in facilities. It's a partnership between our two departments and, of course, our partners at the Working Centre. As of right now, we are targeting mid to late March, and the original public comment around February is an accountability that rests with me in terms of putting out a date prematurely, and so I'll take responsibility for being a bit too ambitious in my hopes that this would be up and running by then. But what I can tell you is that although this is intended to be an interim and temporary solution, it is not a solution without its complexities. And so we are working diligently. The biggest piece of work that we're undertaking right now is moving the community space. So if Council might remember, the idea is that we will have 50 individual cabins for residents to live in, and also a really, really important community space. And it's that space that is taking a little bit more time to both get up designed, and now we're through some approval process with CSA. And I'd say one of the reasons why there's been some redesign work on that is rooted in our commitment to making sure that the site and the program design is really rooted around those who are going to live there. And so what we may have originally thought would be a relatively easy community space, in conversations with our partners at the Working Centre, we've recognized that we have to really ensure that it is a place that not only provides the basic necessities, but we're really working together to ensure that not only is the hybrid outdoor shelter an interim solution in and of itself, but it's an interim solution for those who choose to live there, and that they have access to the entire system. And so ensuring we have places to have private and dignified conversations, whether that's related to housing or social work or mental health and addictions, has required a bit of a rethink in terms of what that community space needs to look like. And that's the big piece of work that we're just pushing through right now, because we have no desire to open this program offering without having the requisite community space in place. So to recap, we're looking at mid to late March now. I do not want to make a firm commitment. I've made that mistake once, Councillor. I don't want to do it again. And I appreciate that there's a significant amount of pressure in the community to support the unsheltered, recognizing we do have large unsafe encampments still in this community. They have contracted, and we're continuing to work on a daily basis on service connections there. And then with the opening of the new House of Friendship shelter, we will be bringing on 75 net new beds to the system, and we hope we'll be able to start that very shortly in terms of offering those spaces up. So that would be, and again, through you, Chair, my intention is to bring a regular verbal update on the entire interim housing solution plan next Tuesday at committee, and then I will also be sharing information like this with the neighborhood community tomorrow night.
So if I may, Madam Chair, as a follow-up, I mean, first of all, Peter, no need to apologize in terms of being ambitious on the date. I think that's a good thing, quite frankly. And as I said publicly before, I'll say again, I think what you and your team have done over the last 6 to 7 months since we passed the motion as a council on this has been fantastic. I guess my concern, and you rightly point out, and many of us participated in the opening of the wonderful new facility that House of Friendship has opened in Waterloo, and it will start receiving residents shortly. And that facility will no doubt make a very significant difference in the lives of the men that will be there. I guess with winter, and we just need to look outside. I mean, it's why we've gone remote today in terms of this meeting. I guess I'm just concerned, in terms of the people who are still in those in particularly the larger encampments. And we still have a couple good months of winter ahead of us, and I'm wondering what other alternatives might be available. What things can council help you move in order to help remove some of the roadblocks that you're encountering, so we can still provide the kind of caring and compassionate approach that you're talking about, but also see better outcomes for these residents, and quite frankly, try to see a resolution to the issue of these larger encampments, in particular during the winter months.
Thank you, Councillor Wieniawick. I'd say at the moment, I don't, on behalf of staff and partners, I don't have any specific requests. So, I mean, it's not lost on me that, we are still in the throes of winter. We still have a very significant crisis of chronic homelessness in this community. We are continuing on a daily basis to work with our partners to encourage those to access the shelter that does exist. And, on average, we're still looking at about 30 open beds across the system on a nightly basis. But to answer your specific question, I wouldn't want to characterize, what we're at to as sort of, there's no blockages in this system. I mean, we're dealing with, Canadian Safety Association, you can't go to CSA until you have a final design, and we just got that. And so, again, I think the challenge here, Councillor Benefits, is really about, setting, publicly, rooting into a February date when, all things being told, I didn't have all the information that I should have asked for to make that statement. And so that's why, that accountability rests with me. The staff are working. This is a top priority for regional staff, is a top priority for our contractor, and it's a top priority for our partners. And we're moving it as fast as we can. And any alternatives to moving that faster and opening it up sooner would, in my view and the view of our staff and our partners, be risky and would not set us up for success. And so I think if I had to characterize this in some regard, it's difficult to do this right and to do it fast. And so we are moving as quickly as possible, and this will open as fast as we can make it possible, and we will continue to do so as a regional priority.
So I hear your answer, and I'll leave it at that for tonight. I guess I would ask you to take back to the group to explore, what, if any, things could be done. And that's a question I'll ask on Tuesday when you do your report. And perhaps there could be some further consideration given to that. I just do know that, this is obviously a challenge for the region. It's a challenge for the city of Kitchener. It's a challenge for the city of Cambridge. I think anything we can do to move this along is going to be important as we go forward. Thank you.
I have other speakers. Councillor Deutschmann, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just following up, Commissioner Sweeney, I was going to say there's absolutely no need to apologize or any of that. I mean, you've come up with a tremendous plan. This is unique and innovative, ambitious. I always thought February was ambitious, but as long as we're all working together and we're communicating where we're at and letting the public know, letting all of us know, and you're reaching out to us to let us know if there's anything you want us to do for you or you need for your team, that's fine. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. No need to apologize because Mayor Verbanovic or Councilor Verbanovic just mentioned the House of Friendship. If you talk to John Neufeld, he'll tell you about the challenges they had in getting that place up and running too. So it's totally understandable that there's going to be issues. There's a lot of moving parts. This is something new. You've got various regulations and regulatory bodies that you have to deal with. Maybe what you're getting is an appreciation of what builders go through in our community when they're trying to do a project. But again, just keep us informed. We're all moving in the right direction. Everybody's heart is in the right place. And again, I commend you and your team for the work that you're doing on this project. I love this project and I want to make sure we get it right. And I know you want to make sure you get it right. And I look forward to the next one after this and soon. Anyway, keep it up.
Councillor Craig. You're on mute, Doug.
It was the best part of my speech. That's too bad. Anyways, we had, the last council had submitted through the courts, looking for a ruling to come down about encampments. We have any idea or a clue of when this might be happening? I had expected it before Christmas.
So I don't think that's a fair question to ask Commissioner Sweeney. I don't know.
I'm talking about our legal expert.
Yeah. Okay.
Here.
So Jeff's lit up his square. Over to you, Jeff.
Sure. Through you, Chair Redmond. So it's currently with Justice Valente. He is writing the decision. It's in his discretion. What he has undertaken is to provide 20 notice prior to the release of the decision. So we will have that from him when he is ready to release the decision, but we have not received it yet from him.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Councillor Wolf, please go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Peter. I'm concerned about the length of time we will have to wait for this in Cambridge, and I'm wondering if we can use the same design for Cambridge that we are using for the Herb Street project to save time.
So through you, Chair, to Councillor Wolf, we've been pretty open in that from a staff perspective, we're making some assumptions that given the need in the community that we may need another hybrid outdoor shelter. So we've been pretty consistent in that language. And we've also, I think, have been pretty consistent to say we need to get this one up and running and learn some lessons. And so as we go our way through, I mean, so we're working very closely with a great local contractor. Staff were out last week. I got some pictures of the tiny homes and just saw a rendering today of the community space. So again, that's being designed with our partners and with the people that we're going to serve in mind. And if there's any tweaks along the way, if we have to move forward and build another one of these somewhere else in Waterloo region, we'll absolutely take whatever lessons we're learning. I suspect most of the lessons that we're going to learn through this are really going to be in the manner in which people engage with us and take us up on the offering and how we can support people in a different, and as Councillor Deutschman said, a new and innovative setting here in this community.
Yeah, thank you. I know talking to some people at the 150 Main Street encampment, they're looking forward to something like this, or many of them are. So
thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Erb, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Redmond. I think it's important for everybody to remember we're doing something new. We're in uncharted territory and lessons to be learned along the way. I'm talking to staff in Mr. Sweeney's department 3 or 4 times a week, and they're flat out on this and working as hard as they can. And back to what Councillor Deutschmann said, there's no need for apologies. I know you're working as hard as you can. And, we were all part of the House of Friendship opening last week, and that was 2 months behind. Supplies, construction, there's just all sorts of things that have come in the way. And so hopefully we'll meet the target that Mr. Sweeney is talking about and be able to house some people. Sort of the good news, if there is good news in this, is we still do have some capacity in our shelter system where we can accommodate people, and in the next 2 weeks, hopefully 75 other people will be able to move into the House of Friendship facility as well.
Peter, I'm going to give you an opportunity for a PSA here. Do you want to just talk about the scheduled community meetings for people who are specifically interested in Herb Road?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. That's a good journalist saying, do you have anything else to add? Yeah, so tomorrow evening, we have put out an invitation through a number of channels, including a mail drop, to neighbors and businesses that are directly adjacent to the site. We are hosting that tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at the Waterloo Rec Center. At last count, we had over 50 people who have registered to attend. So I'll be there with regional staff to talk about the work itself and how we arrived here. Our colleagues from the Working Center will also be there to talk about the emerging operational plan and then to answer some questions. We then aim to repeat the event next week. I think it's on Tuesday evening. It's a virtual offering, and we'll just redo that as well. And then the other thing I want to also provide a thanks to our staff internally. We've been meeting with staff across the region, both those who are working at and close to the site, and also other staff to answer those questions as well. So we've been going really flat, to use Councillor Erb's comment, going flat out, not only in design and implementation, but to do our best to really keep the channels of communication and transparency open. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow night. Thank you.
Much. And on behalf of council and the community, do extend our gratitude to all of your staff, because I know there's so many people that are just preoccupied with this, including our partners. I think it's important to underscore that too.
Thank you. Will do.
I see no further questions, colleagues. So the next agenda item is a motion to enact the bylaws first, second, and third readings. We have 2 bylaws. One is to amend a bylaw to regulate traffic and parking on highways under the jurisdiction of the regional municipality of Waterloo. And the next bylaw is to confirm the proceedings of council for the regional municipality of Waterloo at a meeting held January 25th, 2023. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Foxton. Please use your e-scribe to vote. That is carried, colleagues. Thank you very much. And now everybody's favorite agenda item. I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Wolf, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Please use your e-scribe to vote.
Mine's not popping up, so I will use my check mark as Councillor Chance's.
You are voting for Councillor Foxton and not against agenda adjournment?
I am voting definitely for adjournment, please.
Okay, colleagues, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. This feels like old times for many of us, being in the Zoom room in the Hollywood Squares. So to channel a former colleague, safe home, everybody.